Okay, welcome back to a Corona video to explain using string variables, text fields, and text boxes. On my screen is the code that I use to solve the age calculator problem. With most computer programming challenges, there is always more than one correct way. I didn't specify that you had to use certain things for this, so if you use variables, if you use constants, if you did not, any of those ways is perfectly acceptable for this assignment. So if we take a look here, I'm starting at the top of my code, and remember Corona starts at the top of the code that's listed and works its way down, so we're kind of going in the same order that the simulator will do or use to run this. I've got several variables declared, things like days in a year, weeks in a month, things like that. All of the elements that are a part of the calculation that is used to figure out how many seconds a person has been alive. Once I get to this next section right here, which starts with the word background, that is where it is going to use a picture, one picture here called background.png, a second picture file called submit.png. The submit button here is centered in the screen, and I can see that by display.content-width divided by 2 and display.content-height. It may not be the true center, it's the total height minus 100, so it's going to be near the bottom of my screen. My mistake. I've created a text object here called name instructions, which just tells the person to enter their name. The 210/50 is the XY location, the native font on that particular system, and 44 is the size of the text. And we kind of work our way through. Here's a text field that they'll enter their information in. Then we've got another text object called instructions, and another text field for them to enter their birthday. I set up a function to activate the keyboard, and then we have some here that's going to take what they enter in, the calculation function, and determine how long they have been alive. Now here's again a couple things that you probably don't have in your code, and it's okay. These remove self. So I have this particular program set up so once you fill in the information in the text fields, hit the button, the fields, and the instructions go away, and it just displays your answer, so to speak. So I'm going to make these fonts here just a tad bigger before I run this. So save. So I just wanted to take this and look through this code a little bit, and I've left it on the screen for a while, so hopefully if you need assistance with this particular program, you can come back and pause the video and look at the code and see how I did it. Again, this is not the only way. It's not the required way. It is just a single solution. Okay, at the very bottom of my code now I have two listeners. One which is setting up the keyboard to be active when we click into the text fields, and the other one that activates the submit button when clicked. Once you hit the submit button, it calls the calculate age function, which is up here, right here, line 37, which starts going through these calculations. Okay, once it's calculated, down here we've got some lines which print out the text. You've been alive for, it uses your name, how many seconds, okay? And so if I did everything correctly, this will run without error. So I'm working on a Mac, so it's just a little bit different as far as the simulator than if you were working on Windows, but not much. So I'm going to move my code for just a second. There's my simulator. I'm simulating a Samsung Galaxy phone right here. I realize that the text may be a little difficult to read, but if I follow this and click in here and just type, and put in a birth date in the correct format and hit submit, it's telling me I've been alive for this many seconds. Okay, now I'm going to take its word for it and assume I have the calculations correct. There is a possibility that I have a mistake, but the program ran and did not give me any errors, so I can assume that it is okay. And for your programs, as long as they get the required result, unless specifically required in the instructions for an assignment, you're alright with solving it whichever way you can. Okay, but let me give you an example there. We did an animation assignment in which you were required to use transitions. Okay, there are other ways to animate, but if you did one of those other ways and didn't use transitions as specified, you will lose some points on the assignment. Now, if I look at this output in my phone carefully, I can see that my text, my answer text, is not on this completely on the screen. My name should be displayed, and this part of this number is run off the left. So I can fix that by coming down here to these lines of code in my editor again that print that out. So specifically for my code, it's line 55, 56, and 57. Okay, and this 210/200/300/100. Those are my locations. 210 is the X, 100, 200, 300 is the Y. So I'm just going to try. And again, there is no magic number for this. You could do some math calculations, divide up the screen, figure out how many characters, and you know, calculate it precisely to make sure you have enough space. But in most cases, it's just a matter of trial and error. You have to be careful about going too far to the right and having things run off the other edge of the screen too. Okay, so there I can see that it got a little better, but the first letter of my first name is still off the screen, so the top level of text still needs adjusted, but the other two are okay. So I go back here, and 310 might be not enough, so I'll do 410. But to kind of keep this close, I'm going to make these both 350. I'm going to save this code, go back to my editor, and you'll notice that mine automatically updated. It's back to the main screen. If you're on Windows, you can do Control-R to force the simulator to refresh, or I'm on a Mac, so I can do Command-R and it will reload again. So if I plug that in and hit submit, now I can read everything fairly well. So I would be happy with this. It does everything. It runs without error. And while not super exciting, it performs the function that it needs to. Okay, so that's the age calculation program. The biggest thing there is, there are some string commands that are required. If we come down here and look, it's using string.length to get the total amount of text that you entered, and then use that in calculations and things. Again, there's the bottom part of the code. Let me move this over so you can see everything. And there's those. So again, I'll leave this for a second if you'd like to pause it. Just a quick run through. If you have any specific questions, use the ACM email to get in touch with me, and I'll try to answer them. Okay, keep coding.